I'm very appreciative of the opportunity, but that ain't shit to me. There's other places I'm getting ready to go that I want us to go to.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are once again. Oh yeah. I have to do it. Coming in hot, coming in sizzling, spicy rub skin. Coming in hot. Listen, today is special for me. It's very, very, like, genuinely, it's special for me because I got my brothers here, the Avila Brothers. And why this is so special, you guys don't know who these guys are, but if you don't know, you know. Numerous contributions to Usher's projects, including 2004, Confessions. The brothers later went on to win a Grammy with Shaka Khan, Funk This, you know what I mean? They have done so many things. And I don't want to do a long introduction on their resume because we're going to get into it. I just want to say I am so blessed, grateful that my boys are in the building. Bobby and Izzy Avila. Welcome to the couch.
Man, what's up? Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here.
Man.
Glad to be here with my brother.
Great to see you, bro.
Boys.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Man, you looking great, man. The vibe just
But y'all,
cool and cozy,
you
comfortable.
looking like y'all gangbanging and making music.
Man,
Someone has to.
There's very few Mexicans doing it, man. So we got to stay,
All right,
sharp and crispy.
So what I didn't say in my intro is that Jimmy and Terry Lewis were integral in my life. I got signed to Flight Time when I was 19. You guys was already over there cooking. They trained you up, and now I don't want to say the Mexican Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, but
You can say it.
it really is that. That's really what you guys turned yourself into. Let me ask you first, Bobby. When you were a baby coming into the game, where'd you get all those gifts of the guitar gifts, the piano, the voice? Like, how did that?
Man, I think, being around my pops and watching, he had bands, and me and Iz would like listen to the rehearsals at a young age. I was like, what?
When you say
6?
bands, like, what do you mean?
He had top 40 bands. It's like how DJs are like today, spinning at clubs.
Right.
That era was like, live bands. So they'd play the hottest records in top 40. So, we were exposed to music in so many different ways. My dad had amazing musicians. I think the most important thing for me that really connected was I just had this love for music. So it was exciting for me when my dad would go to like Guitar Center. We had this music store called Lear's in San Bernardino. And they'd have this area with like drum machines and keyboards. And for me, it was like going to Disneyland and like having that discovery moment.
Yes, sir.
And that just really led and guided me along the way of finding my place in music and what I wanted to do. My dad had a vision for me to become an artist.
The Mexican Joe Jackson?
My pops was definitely the Joe Jackson.
Coming in hot.
He was what James Brown says. He was karate and he was crazy.
Yeah. And you got to think that generation, right, of the baby boomers, that those fathers back then,
They were hard.
There was no room for opinion or how you felt about something. It was like, this is the vision. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
You got a roof. You got a mill.
Yeah, this was his governor.
Yeah. Zero.
There's
iron fist.
Nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
And, too, my dad had a best friend. His name was James Felix, and he was part of the Andre Crouch and the Disciples.
Oh.
So as a young kid, he was my hero.
Yeah.
Came up in the church.
Yeah.
Came up in the church.
When did you, Izzy, when did you pick up drumsticks? When did you start playing drums?
Right around the same time, 5 years old. And what was so dope is that, being that young in our room, being next to the garage where they used to rehearse. right?
Oh,
So
y'all was right next to it.
right next to it. So they be in there rehearsing at night, and we couldn't get no sleep. So Pops would be like, "Cool, come in here," and I just would naturally go sit by the drummer because I was just, I don't know, groove was always my thing. And then, Bob would be next to JR, the keyboard player, and just sit there and watch and watch and watch, and then ultimately led to Pops getting our instruments.
I love this. We're going to dive into that. Hey, folks, I want to thank my sponsor, Nebula 9. This is a special drink, folks. You will never pick up a White Claw ever again after drinking this. It's ready to drink cocktail, 9% alcohol. And this is the thing. It's the first alcohol to be infused with organic apple cider vinegar, which helps with digestion. Most people, they wake up, they had a few, they got a headache, they got a hangover. Nah, you wake up feeling like a rock star. And it comes in 4 flavors: Grape Beyond, Pineapple, Passion Fruit, Paradise, Moscow Mule, Pommy Blue, Cosmo. Well, I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you right now, this is the last you'll ever drink.
Please drink responsibly.
And you'll be coming in hot. When did you guys meet Uncle Jimmy, Uncle Terry?
I was 14 years old, just got off RCA Records, getting ready to put an independent record out.
Oh, wait, go back.
Okay.
Now, we're not going to do that now. You just got off so you were already out.
Yeah, I had got my first.
Talk to me about
Okay,
walk me through that.
One day, my dad was like, "I'm tired of doing the top 40 bands and doing the circuit, being away from home. You're going to be an artist." And he just told me that we're going to go in the studio. So I went in the studio called Upbeat Audio and worked with a guy by the name of Trey Stone, who was with Bootsy Collins and came through.
I never knew this.
Norman Whitfield. Yeah. So that was my first introduction, being in the studio. So my dad brought James Felix on board, and man, I just found myself like I would write lyrics, and James would teach me how to sing. And it was just that instant. And I kind of learned as I went. I was very fluent with technology. So I was drone programming, playing, sequencing on a Lin 9000. I understood it at a young age. And I ended up finding myself in different studios and growing and put a demo together, strangely enough, at A&M Records. And that led to getting signed to RCA Records with Skip Miller in 1989.
Were you solo or was you?
Yeah, it was solo artist.
What?
Yeah.
I never knew that. Okay, so then you find Jimmy and Terry. Okay, now let's go.
Wait, hold on.
So we
run me back.
Okay, so through that process, the record comes out. Go on tour. I'm opening up for New Kids on the Block, doing that whole tour. That whole deal. I was on the Hangin' Tough tour. I was an opening act.
What?
Yeah. So
Perfect Gentleman.
Cover Girls. It was that time, right? When when the 80s were making that transition into the 90s. And so, management, the labels couldn't get along with Pops, and, found ourselves, back to square one, creating a new project. And so we're mastering at Bernie Grumman's, and Brian Garner gets a phone call. And it's Terry Lewis. And Terry Lewis, I think, was checking on either Janet or Karen White's project. Right. And then he hears the music in the back. And he's like, "Who's that?"
So Brian, he heard music in the back
on the phone. Brian was like, "Oh, this is kid, Bobby. He's been doing it for a long time, really talented." And he's like, "Well, does he have a deal?" And he's like, "Let me check." So he does this, "Hey guys, do you guys have a deal, or are you putting us out independent?" And he was like, "Well, we're putting out independent, but why?" And he was like, "Well, because Terry Lewis is on the phone." And it was like, "What? Terry Lewis? Like the Terry Lewis?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." So
Uncle Terry.
It was like, "Hey,
His ear is impeccable.
Send the music over, man." And like maybe three or 4 weeks, maybe a month later, I was in Minneapolis, and man, the rest is history. I went to Minneapolis, was introduced to the facility at Flight Time, and in that facility, man, it was like Sounds of Blackness. They were rehearsing in the rehearsal hall,
big, humongous,
low key, mint condition.
Smash,
it was like going into
so you had
everybody there. Yeah. I mean, Steve Hodge was getting ready to move out there. So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that was my introduction with to Terry and Jimmy at that time.
So as you guys came in as young minority producers. Being minority, when I say minority in music, doesn't mean black. Being Mexican,
Yeah.
being Mexican Americans, you already know. Like, people gonna hate. Like,
Oh yeah, the target, the crosshairs were already there. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how did you guys navigate that?
Honestly, man, growing up in this thing of music and my dad's understanding of what we needed to be, because we weren't doing Spanish music, because we weren't doing Mexican music, he knew that we had to be that good and we almost had to be better.
No, not almost.
Right. There's no room. So, when you grow up with that mentality and then you get the fortune of being around the masters like Jimmy and Terry, right? And understanding what that is. And I even remember when Terry signed me, I was 13, right? My record actually ended up coming out before Bobby's. But Bobby was the one that gave Jam my tape, the tape of my record. And I remember before I shot my video, Terry called me in his office. And Terry was like, "You ready? You've been practicing, you've been
Rehearsing?
rehearsing." And
Yeah.
I look back at that now. I remember I asked Terry maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I had to ask him this. I said, "Terry, out of everyone you could have had and had access to for flight time, what was it that you saw in me and my brother, like two Mexican kids out of a small town in Rialto? What was it?" And he was like, "Well, I never saw color. I saw the ability." And
For that.
when you look back at that, a lot of times, me and Bob bug off this a lot because when you're that young and you're doing music at a high level, you really don't know what it looks like for yourself, right? Because you're the vehicle, you're the talent. When you get older in life in this thing, you start to say, that's what it looks like. That's what we look like, right? Because you really can't explain it. You can't explain Bobby being 5 or 6 years old, beta testing for Yamaha, right?
That's crazy.
You can't explain that, right? And so you go through this thing and this evolution of music and your craft, and you're reminded by these markers in your journey. Terry Lewis saying, "I never saw color, I saw ability. Are you ready?" Jam used to walk out of his studio all the time and just say, "Hey, when I call on you, just be ready. Preparation, be ready." And so the luxury of having an institution like that in our lives, I mean, it's why we're here today.
See, check this, folks. There was two different things. Let's not ever let the diddler ruin it for what it looks like to become an artist. You don't have to. I told you guys this. I already told you. You don't have to do it like that.
You don't got to rent the draws out.
No, you don't got to get blown out. You don't got to give up the booty hole, right?
Yeah.
So, look at those. The Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. I love you, Unks.
Love you,
shout
T.
out,
Love you,
shout
Jam.
out to you guys. I'm a product of. We are all three of us sitting on this couch as products of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So I want to just give them a hand right now.
And I think the most important thing with being with Jimmy and Terry was not that they educated us and curated us in music, but they taught us how to be men beyond the music, right? Terry always saying, when you start making some money, just make sure you pay your taxes.
Yep.
Little
things that you need.
It's the information.
The details.
And I mean, to even touch on the race part, it's like I've always took music serious. I never took myself serious. And I only realized.
Say that again?
I took music serious. I never took myself serious.
Wow, Bobby.
And I realized later down the road how divided we were as blacks and Mexicans, because I would always get signed to a black department in a record company. For some reason, the executives connected with me, but it was like I'd always have these little worms in the company that would say, "Well, what is he doing? Why does he have a DJ on stage with him?" And it's like, yo, we come from the same place.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And, I used to love what Terry said. It's like fighting for the same space. But like when I started getting older and understanding things, because you don't realize too much of what life really is about when you're in music, right? Because you don't have to pay bills. Your responsibility is like, I'm just diving into music. For me, I was 13, to 18. When I was 18, I started realizing, hold on, there's electricity bill, there's a utility bill. That's when you start taking
There's an equipment bill.
Yeah, and I got all these deals and stuff. So my dad's handling the money and stuff. I got a studio. Everything for me was a world that was created for me. So I didn't really realize any of that stuff until later on down the road.
Man, well, let me walk you through a little journey, and if you guys are down to talk about it with me, when I have two dear friends, the Sanchez's. They became my managers, and they said, "I want you with Bobby and Izzy Avila." I'm like, "Who?" I was like, "Oh wait, oh hell yeah, you really?" And he said, "Yep." He said, "Yep." And let's walk through this.
Shout out to our brothers, Marcus
Shout
and
out
Eddie,
Mark
for
and Eddie.
bringing you into our lives.
Love my bros.
Shout out.
Yeah.
He said, you got to come out there and meet him. And so you guys committed to me to make. We were gonna make my album. We were gonna do something. But before I could get into the studio, folks, these ninjas made me play basketball.
Yeah. We had to live a little.
Yes,
They said, no studio time yet, son.
Let's see what your crossover
We have to
is
live.
like.
We gotta live.
Hey,
And you know what's great? Like, you were the first cat I ever saw Harlem shake his crossover.
And so they put me. So I moved in with you, Bobby.
Yep.
And rest in peace,
Man,
Sam Salter.
Sam.
Sam
Sam
Salter.
Salter.
We love you, brother.
Oh, love you,
Yeah.
miss you, man. So me and Sam Salter would be up all night in Bobby's house, which, by the way, is ridiculously pristine. And let me tell you, and I'm gonna get there. So me and Sam would be up all night, Sam Salter. We'd be in the lab and making records. So I wouldn't go to sleep until probably 3:30 in the morning. In the morning, let me tell you.
And then drive to your movie set.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We'll get there. But in the morning, 6-8, when I didn't have to be on a movie set, I'm hearing a vacuum. I hear the vacuum, so I know Bobby's up. Bobby's awake. Bobby's awake right now, and I'm in the bed. I'm like, man, I'm Bobby, man. It's vacuuming, full vacuum, a full clean, and then all of a sudden, this boy starts playing Purple Rain as loud as
The morning ritual,
Yeah,
man. That's
the morning
ritual.
ritual on guitar, smashing. Purple Rain. You gotta get up now. You have to get up at that
Yeah,
point.
it's the start of the day.
Oh my God. I'm talking 7:30, folks. I'm talking about 7:45 in the
Loud.
morning. Loud.
Yeah.
Speakers blasted. Pew! What? Purple Rain, loud as hell. But it was a special way. I didn't have that ability to wake up like that as a kid.
Yeah.
And so to wake up like that, it was special to me.
Yeah.
You guys didn't know that.
Yeah.
It never was annoying. I wasn't annoyed. I was blessed every morning with a vacuum and Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Bobby playing Purple Rain on the guitar. And so getting into that, you guys had a wonderful journey with, Ush. Okay, let's talk about Ush for a minute. Ush, some of the best records I love on Confessions, you guys did, because it's just different, and it's because of all that history and all because of all that stuff you grabbed along the way, like what y'all know about her? Supermodel. Yeah, fresh out of Veil magazine. Yeah. So tell me about the process working with Usher in the early days when you guys first started working with Usher.
I mean, I think
Came by the studio.
Came by the
It was
studio.
like-
He was one.
When
of,
he just popped up?
Well,
Which one?
He was on
Santa Monica Village.
he was on the
Oh,
schedule at that time.
yeah.
We were working with. We had just finished Maya. We were working on the film Fighting Temptations, and we are really focused on Janet. And Terry said, hey, Usher's coming by. He's on the schedule. He's going to come and visit. We're going to, kind of talk about the new project. So he came in and, we had this conversation and then it was time to press play. And so we had this track, had this joint, which ultimately was Truth Hurts.
What?
And
you played them Truth. Who demoed it? You?
No, it was just
we just pressed play, and we had this thing. We'd always have a 58 mic, Shure 58,
Right.
Yeah,
ready to go, and we'd always be recording. So the track came on, and then us just, he had this melody, and then he just said, "Truth Hurts."
He did that.
He said, "Truth Hurts" came out of his mouth. Yeah,
Yeah.
And
wow, Ush.
pretty much the rest was history. I think, at that point we just created a really great relationship. A working relationship, and he was kind of making a transition after coming out of his last record, the You Remind Me and all that, and we were at a different place in our life. So I think for all of us, for Jimmy and Terry, for us, it was a new moment for all of us, and I think that's what you get out of our work with him. I mean, every record we ever did with him in the studio ended up on Confessions. So that's what it's made for. Simple Things, Seduction, Truth Hurts. All of those records ended up becoming a part of the body of work, which ultimately was Confessions.
Now look at that. Now let's take a moment. And think about that. That moment happened. This is why, folks, God is so good. I believe God is so good. And before I go into my next part, I want to pause for a second. And I want to talk for 2 seconds. And then we're going to go back to Ush. When I was living with you, Bobby, do you remember L. DeBarge got out of jail?
Yeah.
And you brought him in to your crib.
Yeah, but what I never told you
What?
was I had watched him on a Brian McKnight show. And I was in bed and I said, man, I wish you would bring him to me.
What?
Yeah.
And a week later,
L's out.
As a matter of fact,
Bobby
called me the night he was watching L on the Brian McKnight show. And he's like, man, if God could bring him to us, man, we can.
Really?
Yeah.
You manifested L. DeBarge?
Manifested it.
yeah.
And he came out and L, man, you got L healthy.
We did.
You got L in his right mind. And then he fell again, but it's all good. But guess what? L's back on tour. He's back doing his thing. And I heard, my guy is on tour with him. My engineer, my partner, my guy, Raj. Shout out, Raj.
Yeah, he's doing great, man.
And
So phenomenal.
yeah. But I had literally, I don't know if you know this, but like my throat was so tight and I choked up when L was sitting on your piano in your living room playing and singing like he never left.
yeah.
At any given moment.
That was crazy.
Yeah, that was, man. It was my birthday, I think.
Yeah, it was your birthday.
Yeah.
I was like, bruh, my throat was
Yeah, man.
clogged up. I was like, oh my God.
That was a great moment, man. And I think that's really,
We love
like you
you,
said,
Al.
man. That's
Love you, Al.
a testament to music,
Bros
and the power
for
of
life.
music.
Yeah.
And L is like, I'm supposed to see him this weekend, and I love him, man. Today's my mom's birthday, and
Happy birthday, Mama Sita.
Happy birthday, Mom.
I posted
we love you.
something, and I attached Queen of My Heart. It's like,
Wow.
that's my school.
Bruh. So back to Ush. So let's look at how God works. You guys, early days, and then let's talk motherfucking Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Okay,
Super Bowl.
so guys, I'm gonna give a little setup for this. So me and my boys, our manifestation was my brother Mario Henderson,
Rio.
Cornethius
My bro.
Henderson, Rio.
Yeah.
We were living together in an apartment, and we would watch Velvet Rope Tour every day, Usher live every day.
That's cool.
Every day, and we were like, one day, one day we're gonna do this. And so he's gonna be on his couch soon, but I was so proud of Mario that he got that gig.
Yeah.
You have AJ. I know all the guys you worked with, But you guys were the ones that really were behind the music, behind it. What was that experience like, bro? Like, that's humongous. Like, one of the best. Like, I swear to God, you guys just, that Usher performance was top 5 for me, but it's top 10, maybe top 10 for some other people. I think it's top 5 for me. Other than
Man,
so talk to me about that.
That was because Iz could really touch on that a lot more because he became Usher's MD for many years. That it was just a great moment. I think what I really appreciated at that time was, being able to text Jimmy Jam and say, look, we're doing the Super Bowl. I want you to be the first one to know. And his response to me in reply was, I'm happy for you, but I'm glad to know that we were right years ago.
Years ago.
And that to me was like,
oh man, you're gonna make me emotional.
The fact that there are people in my life who I wish were alive to be able to see that.
Wow.
I was able to, I've always, came in and helped produce a lot of certain events for us, whether it was like America's Got Talent or whatever we were doing together with Iz. But through Ush, I was able to meet Lil Jon and his partner Chronic, and those dudes became my bros. Lil Jon's like damn near my best friend.
Yeah.
And the year before, I went to go watch him spin at a Gronkowski Super Bowl event in Phoenix because we were thinking about going out there because we're Chief fans, diehard. We're not locker hoppers.
Let's
We've been
go.
Chief fans forever. So if you're watching Mahomes and Kelsey, yo, hit the Avila Brothers up. We love y'all. But, the next year was like, Iz got hit up and then we all got the call. And a lot of that came from what we did at the residency at Caesar's Palace in 2021.
Which was fresh.
Which is kind of like
I caught COVID.
the introduction of that.
Everybody got COVID.
Man.
Yeah, everybody. I got it.
Once or twice. Hold on, I think I still got it.
All the dancers are going down.
Everybody was dropping. Everybody was dropping.
Yeah.
But that for us was, it was an exciting moment. Again, I love the moment being able to take my kids and having my mom and my dad there. But again, it's like, for me, it was, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity, but that ain't shit to me. There's other places I'm getting ready to go that I want us to go to. And that to me was just a remarkable moment for God to say, hey, look, I ain't done with you guys yet.
Yeah.
This is just the start here.
Is. What was that experience, bro?
You can tell you.
For me, man, I joined Usher's band in 2009, and shout out to Natural, Buddy,
brothers,
our great brother Aaron Spears, who's no longer with us, but with
peace,
us,
Aaron
Valdez, and this thing is really built on brotherhoods, relationships, and camaraderie, because that's how you grow.
Exactly.
And over the years, I even before joining Usher's band, I always had a connection with Ush. When Ush would come to the studio, it was like, get your laptop, push play. And that was really just the process of how things began to unfold all the time. And so to have that element in his band, it was the same thing. The idea of saying, okay, now I got a producer on the squad, is open up that laptop, what you got. So it's just this melting pot of contribution all the time. And so having the luxury of being with him all these years really helped me understand just the scope of what he represents, from entertainment to performance to his discipline to his commitment to excellence. Right. Being on the OMG tour and seeing this man go back to his bus and watch videotapes of what could be better.
He was always a student.
Always a student.
Exactly.
And so that resonates with us because that's the school we're from. Yep. Always a student.
Yep. I know that.
Understanding the greats, right? Respecting the greats. And so, you go through this road that pulls you in another place where, wow, I get to see people experience live that's what it's made for, bad growing. And you got to understand, as a creative, you never know how your music is going to impact the road. You just do your best to harness it, channel it, and let it go. And so I remember I would tell my brother, I said, man, there's nothing like being on the other side of the road and seeing people sing the words to our records, being moved and motivated. And so you take all of that, right? And then you get to the point where now, 12 years later, now I get to share the stage with my brother. Now I get to look over and see, now my brother's a part of this.
I get
right?
emotional, guys, about this just because they are my actual, for real, like, family. And so I want to take a moment. I want to divert. Let's go in. Because a part of my show is very much about mental health.
Yeah.
And growth. And so I'm going to go to you, Bobby. That's a great picture. Great one. Bobby. So I have had major struggles with addiction, with alcoholism. And I remember you did too. But you were always sweet, no matter what. Like, you were just high functioning. Like, no matter what, you were incredible. What was that process like when you said, I'm done? And
It's a great question. Yeah.
And is he standing? No matter what.
Yep.
Well, man, at some point I had to really thank God for that guy, whoever developed Patron, because there was a lot of shit that I'd had really buried. And, it allowed me to open up a little bit. And unfortunately, I have to deal and face certain things. And after a while, there's no therapist that could help me. I'm very clear about that. I had to find my way, and I still do every day, every week. It's one of those things where it's like, I was watching this one post, and the guy said, "Look, have a cookie, man, have a drink. Go outside, put your feet in the sand. Like, there's certain things as human beings that we need to do because life sucks."
But that was what we were doing.
We weren't.
Right.
We were burying ourselves in all
Work.
of that and work. And see, I was able to accomplish so much up until 30, where I started drinking and having fun. And it was when I went to bed, it was like, I would know how to turn voices off in my head. I would know how to turn the emotions off, and then I couldn't turn them off.
Right.
And it becomes your worst nightmare, and you wake up every morning. And so, like, I'd vacuum in the morning, I'd play my guitar, my bass, my piano. I used to write stuff around the house, to challenge me and coach myself. That started deteriorating and started going away because I got tired at the same time. And not knowing how to talk about things, going through trauma is a hell of a thing.
Childhood traumas.
The childhood trauma.
Yeah.
The things that I dealt with and faced with dealing with my pops was crazy.
Yeah.
So, I remember one time going on stage performing for thousands of people on the New Kids on the Block tour, and my back, I got whelps. My dad rocked me in
your ass.
Whooped it, and my dad was a boxer, so he thought I was Roberto Duran, and he was Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah,
at one
he
point.
had that baby boomer strength. That's a different strength.
So you deal with all of those things, and
But you never got a chance to sit down and talk about
Or
it.
never got a chance to heal.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing.
Or
It's
know
like,
that it's even trauma.
Or even know it's
yeah, I didn't even, honestly, I didn't realize it till I got older and had a kid. And when I had my son, I was like, damn, man, how can my dad be this crazy? Like, how
Because
could
I
you
wouldn't put my hands on my kid
how
like
could you
that.
do that to your kid?
Yeah.
How could you do this to my mom and remember my mom's black eyes? And,
Yeah.
Damn, you guys went through it.
I think,
Went through it, bro.
God put us
You guys
with
went through it.
the great thing I'm thankful for is he had many men in my life that helped mentor me, through all of that trauma and trying to figure out how to navigate. I buried myself in music. So I learned radio, I learned marketing, I learned publicity, and I had such a great support system. And Terry was great because Terry knew exactly what I was dealing with. And when I had to get off their label, it was a choice between being with my dad as a manager or not. And that at 16 years old, those are the decisions I was having to make. So, later on in life, that liquor became my best friend. It became somebody I could just talk to, or, I found myself drinking by myself to function.
To function.
Just to function.
Just to function, bro.
Right? So I'm looking at, this guy that everybody looked at who was just, man, he was always focused, and no matter what he was, he was rock solid. He was bulletproof. And at one point, the people that I did take care of, I really needed taken care of, but I didn't know how. I understand a whole lot more now going through that, but it became a thing for me where it was like, I can't function, I can't think normal anymore, because now I have a problem on top of the problems I've already been dealing with all my life.
Okay, Izzy.
Yeah.
Izzy, how was that? Leave the music. Your brothers. I'm arguably going to say the most talented musician that I know outside of Prince, for real, other than and Stokely.
Right.
Like y'all, they're top. Those are you're my top three. You're my top three. Prince, Stokely, and you. And how was that watching your brother, and what did you do? Because we had this conversation, but I just want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Bobby. Come on, Bobby.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I think considering how close me and my brother have always been since day one, right? You look at it from a perspective of no matter what it takes, I'm going to be there for him.
Right.
I may not understand it. I've experienced the same trauma.
Right.
But, I was the first one to become a father between us two.
Yeah.
So my perspective was always being able to understand the gift that God gave us, which was music, right? But also understand the equation of how do I be just as great in life as I am in music. That was always the equation to me. So when I began to watch my brother go through what he was going through, I had to make sure that, one, I was there for him. Two, I could carry his load.
For that. You're amazing. For
Three, that I didn't judge him.
Yep.
Four, that I always held him accountable, though.
Yeah.
See, there's a difference between judging somebody and holding somebody accountable. And I had to watch him go through what he was going to go through, because I knew he needed to go through that.
Yep.
I knew I couldn't get in the way. I knew I couldn't be the savior for it, because I don't know what it's like to struggle with something like that. But this is my brother.
Right.
Not only my brother, but somebody who provided a template for me. Right? And so thank God I was able to return the favor for my brother, because my brother carried the load at one point.
Yes, he did.
And I had to say to myself,
For everybody.
okay, you're a dad. You are the compass for this family. How do I get my brother through this without me caving in?
Hey, it's Dr. Sunshine here, and I want to help you take on your day with a brighter mindset. Let's get started. Feeling overwhelmed? Break tasks into small, bite-sized pieces. Instead of focusing on the big picture, ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do right now? Then write it down. Then do it. And then cross it off. It's incredibly satisfying. Also, remember to take breaks. Even 5 minutes of deep breathing or stepping outside can reset your mind and make big challenges feel more manageable. Remember, little steps lead to big wins. You're doing great. And I'll see you soon right here for another Mental Health Minute on Coming In Hot. I'm Dr. Sunshine. There's always a silver lining. I'm glad to help you find yours.
And my brother's a motherfucker.
Yeah, he is.
My brother is probably one of the strongest I've been around.
Yeah.
As a man.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you don't look at it as somebody who's messing up or somebody who's falling off his horse. You look at it as your brother. How can I help you get back to what we love about you?
I love that answer. And here's the thing about people in our lives that I think when you're hyper gifted, they don't know how to connect to us.
Yeah.
They don't know how to get through.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, we know there's some pain in there. We don't know, but your provider. You're the gifted and you're the provider.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Heavy as the crown.
yeah, and you're like, boom, but we over here by ourselves, like feeling like, no, this is something that I got to go through by myself. But you know, you don't have to go through it alone. Anybody out there right now struggling, there's gotta be somebody in your life that you just need to. My person, there wasn't nobody. It was God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It said, and when God put me on my knees, broke me down to my knees, and that's where change began.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with that being said,
Well, as you're saying it though, I think too, you know, knowing what that situation was and what I was going through, what I have always been able to fall back on as my crutch is the discipline that I have.
that's always it.
Yeah.
And the discipline that I had allowed me to realize, like, now you know this is how you think. Now you know how this is how you are trained. All you got to do is just go back to that place, figure it out, let your heart heal how it's supposed to. Thankfully, I had so many people in my life that I can revert to, talk to. I talked to Terry quite a bit.
Uncle Terry always.
Yeah.
You know, and I had James Felix I can talk to, and obviously my brother, but the accountability was even more so rang very loud in my ear. And it sucked too, because at that time I was dealing with that. The worst thing that I've ever gone through was being a kid, being around my dad. And I had my kids, and my kids actually seen me in the state that I was in. And
that was it. That's
and
like,
they
I don't
knew,
want that. Nobody wants
they
that.
knew the good part of dad, and then they knew
They
the
knew the
bad,
ugly side.
the bad part of dad.
Yeah,
and
man.
that, you know, they say you ain't lived if you ain't regretted anything. And I think that's one of the biggest regrets that I've ever had, was allowing my kids to have to witness that part of me, because that wasn't me. And that's what frustrated me even more so about my dad, because as we got successful, he had his hand out. His heart wasn't out still. It was coming from a selfish place. So, you know, at 30, 33, 35,
Wow,
36
man.
years old, I'm still dealing with his shit.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you've already took enough years out of my life. Like, how am I going to let you rob me for some more? And God bless it, I love him, but my kids.
The baby said something. It was like a couple months ago. The baby quit drinking. He said, I saw the way my kids was looking at me when he said he was throwing up and doing all this stuff, and he said I'm done. After that, he said, I don't ever want my kids to look at me like that.
Yeah.
Ever again. And it's time. And thank you for our kids, man.
Yeah.
Man, for sure.
And being fathers. So now, after going through, listen, this is coming in hot. This is my show, but this is not about me. This is about other people sharing, giving on a platform to share their journeys. Going through all that stuff, from children to adults, successes to highs to lows. I want to ask the Avila Brothers, what's next for you?
You know, for me, when I look at our journey, when I look at what we represent for our culture, Mexican Chicanos, I understand more than ever that as a kid, all my heroes were black.
Wow.
Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, Pete Rock, Tribe Called Quest, Stevie Wonder. So when I look at what we represent, the box was never big enough for me and my brother. The box they wanted to keep us in. Thankfully, our father always understood that and put us around people that we could grow from. So I say that to say that we now have to carry that torch for kids that look like us, that are dreaming beyond the box, that are thinking beyond the box, that will never fit in the box. We are the best example in today's world, 2024. We are the best example of what it looks like to go chase your dream. No matter what this is, no matter what side of the earth you're from, because our kids need superheroes. Our kids need superheroes that represent family, community, forward thinking, and we have to be that. You know, I refuse to believe that God put us through this journey for it to be void, for it to be
No,
under the rug, right?
No, he didn't.
Right.
And
No, he didn't.
you know, that's something coming out of the Super Bowl. The most beautiful thing I think God has given us is the luxury of time with our loved ones. That our dad and our mom are still alive, to be able to sit in those seats, to be able to see their kids. Do it at a high level.
I thought we were going to wrap up, but now you just said something. Have you guys unpacked that stuff with your dad?
I have. I think my chapter ended with that when I had my son. Because my goal with my son at 21 was to make sure I never repeated the ugly.
Never repeat the
Never
ugly.
repeated the ugly. And that ended for me years ago. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's struggle is different. Everybody's trauma is different.
Yeah, I'm with him.
I know Pops, man.
I'm
And Pop,
totally
you know,
good.
no, look. See, Pops, I know, fun loving.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna dance, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna sing, we're gonna have fun. But I didn't grow up with
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Man, I'll say this really quick because as you say that, there was a night, it was Thanksgiving night, I was at my cousin's, and my girl had asked my cousins, like, how was your Uncle Bobby? Like, everybody says he was, they were like, oh no, we were afraid of him. He was crazy. And my uncle was there. And he used to work with my dad. He was on the road with us. He used to handle merchandise and accounting for us. And I asked him that night, and I said, hey, why didn't you ever help me? Why didn't you ever stop your brother from doing what he did to me in that bus?
wow.
And he was just like, man, I just was afraid. And I said, okay. And he ended up dying a month later
in
from
peace.
COVID.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
And I say that because that was probably one of the last things I needed closure for. How I look at my pops, I love him. Our relationship is what it is. You know, you invest, right, into somebody or you don't. You know, you either pour into the cup or you don't, or you pour a little. So the relationship is based on the investment he's made. So I love him how I love him based on what he's invested. So I'm invested in the relationship as much as he was to me. I really feel bad that
I'm sorry to cuss, Mom. That's deep, bro.
you know. I think the most
Wow.
disheartening thing about it is he's older and we don't have that much more time, right? So
Are you open to having that conversation? Like just you and him, one room, two chairs, one room, one couch, one room.
honestly, I'm actually good because we've had that many times. And at this point in time, it's like,
You don't want to
you know, I'll love him from a distance at times. I'll love him how I need to love him. But I realize my life and my kids are more important than going down that road anymore.
And let
Because it's been a hindrance.
let me say this, right? 76 years old. The story has been written.
It's already written.
Now, here's where you get to change the cycle. You get to allow him to have the opportunity to be a better man for his grandkids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at that point, hey man, you hug him, you tell him you love him. I mean, Pops was just at my house this week watching football with us. You know, see, that's it. Here's the interesting thing. I want to say this because this is important. In trauma, you find beauty, and in that beauty, you get to help someone else. See, if none of us ever experienced trauma, how do we help people that have trauma?
All right. So with that said, we're gonna wrap this up because, and I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna be vulnerable to the viewers. My mom murdered Columbus Key Short Senior when I was in her room 1 week before I was born, and I didn't find that she actually did it until I was 10 years old, and went through a lot of childhood trauma. A lot of
we
stuff.
talked, man.
And I had to make a decision to say, look, just what Izzy just said. What you did provide for us, what you did do for me, you poured into that cup. That was the perfect example. And now we have a wonderful relationship because I wouldn't even allow her to see my kids, right?
Yeah.
And now she's Grammy. She's the best Grammy. And I was like, I wish you were.
You don't even recognize that person,
who's
right?
That lady?
Yeah, who's that lady?
Where were you at?
Yeah.
And but God is good. God
All
is
the time.
able to heal. And I want to just touch on one more thing. So when this is what I want to say to people, they're black and brown. We are connected in more ways than one.
Man, so many.
And having Mark Sanchez and Eddie Sanchez as my managers,
My brothers, man.
my
bros.
They brought me to you and brought me to you guys, and I saw how the industry treated them. I watched it. I'm not going to name the executives that were hating.
Man, how come nobody ever wants to name the executive?
Well, Chris Hicks, Chris Hicks, you was a dick. Chris Hicks, you were a dick.
Here's the thing. One thing I love about what me and my brother represent, we will always tell you the truth, even if it hurts, even if it's abrasive, because that's just who we are. We are true Mexican West Coasters, and we will let you know when that shit fucking stinks.
So guys, I feel like you guys are embarking into a new atmosphere.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't so don't look at these guys like, oh, I want to work with the Avila Brothers. You can't just work with the Avila Brothers. you got first of all, you got to go play basketball.
It's a process.
Here's what's crazy. Can I just say one thing? And we learned this from Terry, and this is an important thing for creatives who are making music and writing for people. The most beautiful process of creating for someone is understanding where they're at in life at that moment.
Absolutely.
We've taken that practice around everything we've ever touched. So you playing basketball with us, guess what? Before we started on Confessions, we took that dude to the mall numerous times just for him to remember who he was. We've done the same thing with everybody because if you're really trying to create something special that's going to touch somebody's soul, you got to be able to tell the truth. How do you learn the truth about an artist? By, oh, let me play you these beats. Or no, you got to really do your due diligence to harness the magic. And that's what I want to challenge.
What are you
creatives
saying?
to
Like,
do.
because you asked this question, what's next?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my greatness comes from pain, comes from trauma, comes from information. It comes from so many people investing into me.
Mm-hmm.
And with pain, a lot of hurts there. Mm-hmm. With pain, there's growth.
Yes. Yeah.
And I want to share this. So this is my shit every day. You are a music icon, an executive, producer, musician, songwriter who is the ambassador for every Latino up and coming talent. You're a millionaire and you have a home. Your kids are living an amazing and fruitful life and following their dreams. You have maids, you have a driver, you have multiple cars. You have an amazing studio where you record. You make a way for people of color to be successful and inspire many all over the world. You help many who have experienced childhood trauma. You help educate and pass along the knowledge, understanding. You give hope to those who need it. You love on those who are unloved. You are the design that God wanted you to be, and he's happy with you. That's where I'm
Man,
at.
I didn't need you to do me like this
That's where I'm
today,
at.
bruh.
For all who need that.
And then
I'm just gonna say, amen. We don't need no more words.
I need one more because I have a bone to pick with you. And we come in hot. So this is what it is, right? We come in hot. So I love that you always kick jokes on your Instagram. That's our cloth, right? I mean, there's been numerous times throughout the years where we just randomly call each other and we kick jokes. But I'm upset with you because when you got that call from Diddy I know it wasn't about taking you shopping. I know it wasn't. Diddy called you and said, "Can I take you to Popeyes?" If you'd have just told the truth, man.
But you want to know something, man? And guys, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to close on this. For all of the young talent, minority talent, African American, Latino, Latinas, you do not have to sacrifice your moral fabric, your body, or anything to make way for your gift. The Bible says, I'm gotta quote it, I gotta do it. The Bible says your gift will make way for you. And it has. And by the grace of God, he put these wonderful brothers in my life. When I tell you, I lived with them. I had to, and I'm doing movies. I was doing Death at the Funeral.
Yeah.
I'm working on my album. I'm doing all this stuff. There was never no one weird thing, not one weird moment. Our love is music, and that's what we wanted to do. But they wanted to see my character and my moral fabric, but they also concreted it, put concrete on who I am as a man. And I love you, boys.
We love you for life.
I love you too, brother.
Mi hermanos for life. And the Avila Brothers, folks.
Coming in hot. Columbus Short.